The peace didn't even last 24 hours, because the very next morning, before the sun had fully risen, and while Sarah was still asleep with her hand wrapped tight around Lily's tiny fingers, I noticed something that made my stomach turn in a way no battlefield ever had. The Phase 2 hard drive, supposedly recovered, supposedly secured by my old unit, wasn't sitting in the sealed containment case they took it away in. Instead, there was a slip of metal tucked inside the phone slot, thin as a credit card, engraved with a symbol I'd hoped I'd never see again. A black serpent wrapped around a double helix. The insignia of the rogue biotech faction we once dismantled overseas, the same faction Marcus swore had gone dormant forever, right before he betrayed us. And beneath the symbol was a single line etched with surgical precision. The key was never the drive. It was a child. My entire body went cold because this meant everything we thought we shut down, every facility, every data vault, every black budget experiment tied to that genome project, hadn't been destroyed. It had simply gone underground, splintering into unknown operators who clearly still had resources, reach, and intent. And if Marcus acted alone last night, then this metal card was a message from someone else watching, someone with an agenda bigger than a stolen project or a renegade ex-operative. I stepped outside onto the porch to clear my head, but the neighborhood wasn't the same silent suburban haven it used to be. Police sirens echoed faintly in the distance. The smell of burned circuitry lingered in the air, and the street looked like a war zone disguised badly with taped-off perimeters. And that was when a black SUV rolled up the curb, slow, too slow, the kind of slow that screamed observation rather than arrival. My instincts locked up. I flexed my hand, ready to reach the concealed holster of my ankle. But before I could move, the back window of the SUV rolled down to reveal a woman I hadn't seen since my final deployment. Dr. Elena Merrick, the lead researcher of the genome program, the woman who disappeared the same night Marcus stole the drive, the woman rumored to have defected to the same faction, whose symbol now sat in my hand. She didn't smile, didn't wave. She simply studied me with eyes far too calm for someone who'd faked her death, then said in a voice that felt like a scalpel sliding straight into my past, "Commander, if you're holding that card, then Marcus failed. And now you and your daughter are part of a much bigger problem." I took one step closer, jaw tight, and demanded, "Explain, now." But Elena only shook her head, as if I were a student who hadn't done his homework. "The child's genome was an accident," she said. "Lily wasn't chosen because of your service. She was chosen before she was born." My pulse hammered hard enough to blur the edges of my vision. "What the hell are you saying?" She leaned forward, eyes cold and calculating. "We mapped over 400,000 birth records from classified military families, searching for a specific anomaly, a rare genetic resonance capable of activating dormant sequences in synthetic DNA. Your daughter, Commander, is the only confirmed match in the world." I wanted to deny it, to call her insane, but the look in her eyes wasn't madness. It was certainty, the kind built on years of buried data and forbidden research. "Marcus didn't understand the full picture," she continued. "But I do, and now others do too. You think last night was an attack? No, it was a scouting test. Someone else is coming." My hand clenched the card so tightly its metal edge cut into my palm, blood trickling down my wrist, and I forced myself to stay composed as I asked the only question that mattered. "What do they want with my daughter?" Elena exhaled slowly, as if bracing herself for her own answer. "Control," she said. "The kind of control that can shift global power overnight. Lily's genome can unlock not just Phase 2, but Phase 3. And if Phase 3 is activated, every major intelligence network on the planet collapses." A cold wind cut across the porch, and behind me I heard the soft padding of Lily's feet as she peeked through the screen door, rubbing her eyes, unaware of the nightmare being rebuilt around her. Elena followed my glance and lifted her hands slightly, palms out. "Relax. I'm not here to take her." "Good," I growled, "because you wouldn't leave the street breathing if you tried." She didn't argue. Instead, she opened a small metal case on her lap, revealing a bracelet. Steel, small enough for a child's wrist, lined with microsensors and a shimmering inner core. "This is not a tracker," she said. "It's a blocker. It masked her resonance. If you want her to survive the next 72 hours, she needs to wear this." Everything in my training screamed not to trust her, but everything in my gut screamed that a new storm was coming, one far worse than Marcus Hale. Before I could decide, Elena's earpiece crackled and a voice whispered urgently. They found her signal. 2 minutes out. She looked at me with something new in her eyes, fear, and whispered, "Commander, the next team isn't here to kidnap your daughter. They're here to erase the entire house." A low rumble rolled across the sky, like distant thunder, except the weather was clear. I scooped Lily into my arms, grabbed the bracelet, and whispered to her, "Hold on tight." Elena pointed to the road. "Leave. Now." And as the rumble grew into the unmistakable roar of incoming aerial engines, shaking the windows and their frames, I realized something with ice-cold clarity. Last night wasn't the end. It was only the opening move. The real war for my daughter had just begun. The moment that red laser crept up my daughter's bedroom wall, slicing to the dark like a countdown to something unforgivable, I tightened Lily's grip around my neck and whispered, "Sweetheart, remember the hideout Dad showed you? The one no one else knows about?" And she nodded with a trembling whisper, "The secret stairs." And I said, "Good girl. We're going there now." Because that hidden passage was a single advantage I had in a house Marcus believed he controlled. A reinforced escape shaft behind a bookshelf in my office, installed back when I still believed one day my past might come knocking. And as I ran down the hallway carrying Lily, Marcus's voice echoed through the vents again, cool and cruel. 30 seconds, Commander. You know how this ends, which only fueled the fire in my chest as I barreled down the stairs, dodging shadows moving behind the frosted glass of the kitchen windows, where 2 more imposters were cutting power conduits and trying to breach the back door. And as I reached the office, I slammed the door shut, shoved the desk chair beneath the knob, then used my free hand to yank the heavy bookshelf back on its track, revealing the narrow metal staircase spiraling downward behind it. Lily's eyes widened. She'd only ever seen the entrance, never been inside, and I whispered, "Head down, don't look back," just as the intruder from upstairs slammed into the office door behind us, snarling like an animal trying to claw its way through thin wood. And I lowered Lily into the shaft first, then followed, pulling the bookshelf back into place with a hard shove that locked us into pitch-black safety just as the office door broke open above. The echo of boots and shouting vibrated through the walls as I carried Lily down the cold metal rungs to the small bunker beneath the house. A single-room space with steel-plated walls, emergency oxygen, backup power, and a direct line to something Marcus had no idea existed. The private satellite uplink installed when my team dismantled the Genome Project overseas, a line legally erased from government documents, but operational for one purpose: to contact my former unit if that classified data ever resurfaced. And clearly, today was that day. When we reached the bottom of the shaft, I set Lily down, secured the door behind us, and tapped the uplink screen awake. It flickered, pulsed, then loaded a minimalist interface with one button: Emergency Protocol Sigma. I hit it without hesitation, and Lily flinched as the room's silent alarms lit up in deep red, signaling a message blast across multiple encrypted channels. And 30 seconds later a distorted voice answered, "Commander, location locked. Confirm hostile presence." I replied, "4-man extraction team inside my home. Leader is Marcus Hale. Objective, my daughter. Their tech includes genome triangulators and a stolen Phase 2 drive." There was a pause and extraction window for minutes. Hold position. Authorization for lethal counterforce granted. And that was when I finally breathed. Barely. Because if Sigma was activated, then my old team, the most lethal recon specialists in the program, were already inbound. But Marcus wasn't going to wait 4 minutes. No, he started ripping apart my house from the inside, trying to find a shaft access point, stomping across the floorboards, dragging furniture, smashing drywall, shouting orders, until his voice finally settled directly above us, dripping with hate. "You think you can hide from me? Your daughter has something that belongs to the world. Hand her over and maybe your wife walks away." And I froze. Sarah, in all the chaos, I hadn't seen what they did with her. And as if reading my thoughts, Marcus added, "She's right here with me, scared, confused, asking why her hero husband didn't come save her himself." Lily let out a strangled sob, clinging to my arm, and I forced myself to stay calm, because panic kills faster than bullets, and I whispered, "Lily, look at me. Mommy's gonna be okay. I promise." Then I shouted upward, so my voice carried through the structure. "Marcus, let her talk." Silence, then a faint sound filtered to the floorboards. Sarah's voice, weak but steady. "I'm okay, love. Just get Lily out." That single sentence hit me harder than any battlefield explosion, because she understood the stakes, understood the mission, and understood what I had to do next, even if it meant she might not see the end of it. Then, boom! A deafening explosion shook the entire bunker as one wall dented inward like something massive had slammed against it. Marcus had found the foundation seam and was trying to breach it with impact charges, and cracks began to form along the top edge, showering dust onto us. Lily covered her ears, tears streaming, and I grabbed her face gently and said, "Listen to me. Whatever happens next, don't be scared. Help is coming." And then, just as the ceiling above us buckled like it was about to cave in, the world outside erupted in a thunderous collision of noise, rotors screaming, engines roaring, gunfire snapping through the night, men shouting tactical commands, and Marcus's voice, once so controlled, finally broke into fear. "No, not them. Pull back. Pull back now." The uplink crackled with a new voice. "Commander, rooftop secured. Team breaching now." A second explosion thundered overhead, then silence, then a deep, heavy thud, the unmistakable sound of Marcus Hale hitting the ground after losing a fight he spent years preparing for. I climbed the shaft with Lily clinging to me, and when I pushed open the hidden exit behind the bookshelf, the first thing I saw was sunlight from a broken window, armed men in black uniforms clearing the last corner of my house, and Sarah running toward me, shaking, crying, and alive. I held them both in my arms as the team lead approached, visor lifted, saying, "Commander, the hard drive is recovered. The threat is neutralized. Your family is safe." And for the first time in years, my home, my life, felt quiet again. But as I carried Lily outside and watched the last of the imposters taken away, a cold truth settled into me. If Marcus Hale resurfaced once, someone else, somewhere, still believed Lily's DNA held power worth killing for. And I vowed right then, with the whole sky trembling from the departing extraction helicopter, that no matter who came next, they'd never get within a mile of my daughter ever again. I didn't think. I moved. Because the instant I saw that shadow carrying Lily through the upstairs window, every instinct I'd ever buried roared awake. And before the backup light blinked out again, I was already sprinting for the porch, vaulting the railing, and crashing to my own front door shoulder first like it was even wood. Because if they had Lily inside my home, then Marcus wasn't just trying to scare me. He was trying to force me into a controlled battlefield, on his terms. But he forgot something. No one knows the layout, blind spots, and kill angles of my home better than me. And the moment I crossed the threshold, I could feel the intruder's footsteps vibrating faintly in the floorboard above, heading toward the back staircase that connected the bedrooms to the kitchen, the one I installed myself during renovations. The one only I knew had a structural resonance that gave away movement, if you listened correctly. And so I stalked the lower floor incomplete. Darkness until I heard Lily's muffled cry overhead, high and panicked, followed by the low grunt of a man who clearly wasn't expecting a 7-year-old to fight that hard, and I grabbed the closest thing I could feel, the heavy metal poker from the fireplace, and slipped up the stairs without a single creak, hitting the landing just as the emergency panel lights flickered once more, revealing the intruder's silhouette for barely half a second. Tall, lean, wearing night vision goggles, cradling Lily like cargo, one hand over her mouth. And when he turned his head, the faint green glow of the goggles lenses told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't HOA garbage. This wasn't random criminal. This was a trained extraction specialist, someone Marcus hired because he knew he couldn't grab Lily himself without dying first. And the moment the lights faded again, the intruder hissed into a throat mic. "Package secured. Exiting through Point Charlie," which made my blood boil because my upstairs window wasn't Point Charlie. It was a 40-foot drop into thorn bushes I intentionally planted as a natural barrier, meaning Marcus's escape path wasn't a house at all. It was a neighbor's roof, reachable through a custom ventilation, route only someone with blueprints could know, and that meant Marcus had acquired the architectural plans for our entire block, probably through the HOA's corrupt leadership, which now made sense. He'd been embedding himself in this neighborhood for months. using HOA clowns as cover while preparing for this exact moment. So I took one step onto the upstairs landing and whispered, "Lily, Daddy's here." Loud enough for her to hear, but quiet enough that the intruder didn't know my exact location. And Lily, brave little warrior that she is, immediately reacted. She didn't scream. She kicked, hard enough that the man adjusted his grip, giving me the window I needed to rush forward and swing the fireplace poker with full force, aiming not for the man but for the goggles, because once you blind an operative using night vision tech in a dark room, he becomes a walking corpse, and my strike landed with a crack that sent the goggles flying, the man stumbling backward into a wall, swearing loudly, his grip slipping off Lily, who tumbled into my arms, shaking but conscious, and before I could comfort her, another voice crackled through the intruder's radio. Extraction. Delayed. Dad, breach interior. Use fallback protocol. Followed by Marcus's voice, cold as steel. If he gets the girl out of that house, we lose everything. Seal every exit. And that was when I heard the sound that turned my blood to ice. Metal shutters slamming down one by one around the exterior of my house. Not random, not improvised. Professionally installed lockdown barriers triggered remotely, trapping us inside like prey. And Lily whispered against my shoulder, "Daddy, they locked us in." And I whispered back, "They made their last mistake." Because the thing Marcus always underestimated was that containment only helps the person who knows the terrain best, me. And carrying Lily in one arm, poker in the other, I moved down the hallway as the intruder recovered and forced himself up again, now relying solely on his training. No goggles, swinging blindly but aggressively, knocking pictures off the wall, trying to corner us. And as I dodged his strikes and kicked him backward into the linen closet, locking the door temporarily with the emergency latch, Lily tugged my shirt and pointed towards something glowing faintly under her bedroom door, a pulsing blue light, rhythmic, mechanical, familiar. And when I flung the door open, my heart dropped because on her desk sat a small cylindrical device humming quietly, one I recognized from classified operations, a microcompression beacon used to triangulate biometrics within a closed structure, meaning Marcus didn't just track Lily. He was mapping her exact genome in real time to locate a specific match, something extremely rare, something illegal, something that made my stomach twist, because if they needed her DNA to activate that stolen hard drive, then the project wasn't just scientifically dangerous. It was personally tied to her, to me, to a mission I thought we'd buried forever. And before I could shut off the beacon, a sharp snapping sound echoed from downstairs, followed by the unmistakable click of someone racking a shotgun, someone big, someone confident. And then Marcus's voice boomed through a speaker, amplified, calculated, chilling. "Commander, you have 60 seconds to hand over the child, or we start taking pieces of your house until there's nothing left for her to hide behind." And as he spoke, a red targeting laser slid across the wall, moving slowly upward toward Lily's room. And I knew in that moment we were out of time. The next move had to be decisive, brutal, and absolute, because Marcus wasn't bluffing, and the only way to save my family now was to use the one part of this house no one but me knew existed. The second I saw the man step out of that black van, the same man I once dragged out of a collapsed safe house in Kandahar, the same man who later vanished with stolen intel and a kill order attached to his name, every muscle in my body went tight. Because if Marcus Hale was here, pretending to be HOA police, dragging a team of fake officers into a suburban neighborhood, then something far bigger than a kidnapping was in motion. And before I could call his name, he smirked and said loud enough for the whole block to hear, "You always were predictable, Commander," using a rank I hadn't heard in years, one that hit the air like a code phrase meant to rattle me. And I stepped forward slowly, noting how the two imposters stiffened in his presence. They weren't partners, they were pawns, and Marcus continued, "You should have never retired. You should have never brought a child into a world full of unfinished business." And the calmness in his voice made the hair rise on my arms, because it wasn't anger. It was something worse, certainty, as if he'd already planned the outcome of today. And when I demanded, "What do you want with my daughter?" he tilted his head slightly like he was studying a puzzle, then said, "Your daughter has something that belongs to me," which made no sense because Lily was 7. She barely knew how to work an iPad, let alone hold anything valuable to a man like him. So I pressed, "Explain," and Marcus simply snapped his fingers, and one of the fake officers ran back to the van and returned holding a metal briefcase. The same encrypted briefcase Marcus stole years ago, right before he vanished. And Marcus opened it just enough for me to see what was inside. A hard drive insulated like a nuclear asset, glowing faint blue from internal cooling. And I realized with a sudden punch of memory that this was a drive that contained the location of a biotech program we dismantled overseas, the one speculated to hold genomic targeting data, DNA-linked tracking tech the Pentagon swore never existed. And Marcus said, "Your daughter's biometrics unlock phase 2. And my stomach dropped because I remembered Lily was born during my final year of service, and her hospital DNA screening had been part of a classified newborn health initiative for military families, an initiative our team guarded and Marcus had access to, and now this traitor was implying Lily's genetic code was a key to something horrifying, something he couldn't unlock without her. And before I could respond, the shorter imposter grabbed his radio and hissed, "Movement on the east side. Dad's wife approaching," which hit me like a shockwave because Sarah wasn't supposed to be home for 2 more hours. But when I glanced down the street, I saw her car turn the corner fast. Her phone held to her ear, likely calling me, because the power glitch had killed her smart car's driving assist, and Marcus smiled like this was all part of his choreography and said, "Bring her to. If she interrupts, this gets messy." And I took one step closer, lowering my voice to a calm, lethal tone. "Marcus, you lay a single finger on my wife and you won't leave the street breathing." But he only laughed, a deep, dry sound that echoed off the houses, then motioned to his men, who immediately struck formation, one moving toward my front door, one moving toward Sarah's incoming car, and one circling toward the backyard. And I knew I had maybe 40 seconds before everything collapsed. At once, so I used those seconds like a weapon. I slammed my heel into the tall imposter's knee, twisting him into the ground, yanked his vest off before he could scream, and used it to choke the shorter man unconscious in under 5 seconds, then spun to take the radio from his belt and snapped, "Sarah, do not stop the car. Drive past the house, G.O." Hoping her instinct to obey my tactical tone kicked in before her fear did. But Marcus lifted his hand, and the van's side panel slid open to reveal an industrial jammer, the kind used in covert extractions, which meant my message didn't reach her, and my blood ran cold as I watched Sarah slow the car, confused and alarmed, right as a disguised officer stepped directly in front of her hood, and Marcus whispered, "This is where you finally lose, just as a jammer." Overloaded and all the street lights shut off, plunging the neighborhood into darkness, so complete that even my night-adjusted vision struggled. And in that blackness, I heard the sound no man wants to hear when his family is in a line of fire, the metallic click of a weapon being raised behind me, inches from where Lily hid upstairs, and then a voice I didn't recognize growled, "Target secured." Moving in, which meant someone had breached my home while all attention was outside. Someone I hadn't seen, hadn't counted, hadn't even sensed, and when the emergency backup lights flickered for just a millisecond, I saw the silhouette of a fourth imposter in my upstairs window, carrying a small struggling figure in his arms. "Lily." I knew something was wrong the moment my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, whispered, "Daddy, why are the police outside our house if they don't have real badges?" Because the tone in her voice wasn't fear. It was confusion, and confusion meant she had already talked to them. And as I dropped my coffee mug and sprinted to the window, the sight that greeted me locked every instinct I'd ever learned as a Navy SEAL into place. 2 men in fake-looking tactical vests, a white SUV with magnetic HOA enforcement slapped on the door, and one of them casually holding a clipboard with Lily's picture on it, as if they had every right to be there. And before I could even open the door, they yelled, "We're here to collect a minor for a compliance interview," which was laughably stupid but also deadly serious because only someone dangerous speaks in that kind of fake official nonsense. So I stepped outside slow, assessing their stances, noticing immediately that their gear didn't match. Tactical, boots but flimsy belts, cheap vests but military-grade flashlights, the kind of mismatched equipment wannabes put together when they have money but no training. And when the tall one smirked at me and said, "This'll go easier if you back up, Dad," I recognized the arrogance of the man who didn't know he was outmatched. So I quietly told Lily to go upstairs and lock the panic latch on her door. Then I stepped down the porch like I wasn't the most dangerous thing those men had met that year. And I said, "Show me the authority that says you can even breathe in front of my house." And the shorter guy lifted his clipboard like it was some kind of holy document, except the seal was pixelated, the signatures were inconsistent, and the entire page looked like a template made on a free website, sloppy, desperate, and stupid, which meant they weren't HOA officers, they weren't cops, they weren't security, they were something far worse. Idiots pretending to be powerful, which makes them unpredictable and reckless. And the tall one started edging toward my front steps while resting his hand near his hip, as if he wanted to intimidate me with something he wasn't trained to use. And I calmly shifted my weight to prepare for a takedown, already calculating angles, distance, and timing. But before I could act, the tall one leaned in and said quietly, "Your neighbors reported your daughter for violating community safety codes. And children like her need be evaluated. We don't want to escalate this," which nearly made me laugh because there is nothing in this world more foolish than threatening a Navy SEAL's child while standing on his property. And I said, "You boys made 3 mistakes today, showing up uninvited, coming my home, and speaking my daughter's name." But just as I finished, the shorter guy reached into his vest and pulled out a folded piece of paper with my wife's handwriting on it, or something made to look like it. And when I snatched it out of his hand, my stomach turned because it was a near-perfect copy of the emergency authorization form Sarah kept locked in a safe, the one that would allow someone to pick Lily up in case of catastrophe. Except the signature was slightly off, the date was wrong, and the witness line was blank, which meant someone had broken into my home, copied our documents, and planned this long before today. And before I could demand answers, the tall man tapped his earpiece and whispered, "He's onto it. Initiate. Plan B." And the entire neighborhood lights flickered at once as if someone had hacked the grid. Garages started opening in a synchronized row. Dogs went silent. Alarms shut down. And an unmarked black van started rolling slowly around the corner toward my driveway. Its windows blacked out, its tires humming low like a predator moving through tall grass. And for the first time in years, I felt a cold pressure across my spine. Because this wasn't amateur hour anymore. This was coordinated, planned, and executed by someone who knew my schedule, my routines, my family, someone who wanted Lily for a reason I didn't understand yet. And as the van rolled to stop directly in front of my home, the back door slowly began to open, revealing a silhouette inside, one I recognized instantly from a past mission I was sworn never to talk about. And the moment my brain processed who it was, I whispered, "Lily, don't make a sound," because the man stepping out wasn't there to take her. Was there to finish something he started years ago, and he had finally found my weakness.